for this video, we are going to learn how to make a fish popsicle like you can see down here. The first thing that we need to do is make a new file. And so I'm just going to make mine standard paper size, 8.5 by 11 by 300 for resolution. Make sure you're in inches, not pixels. Once that's done, you're just going to click create, and you have a nice white document blank there for us. And we need to get the other two pictures that you've hopefully already downloaded on Schoology. So we're just going to go to open. Oh, and I'm on my desktop. So we want 1, 2, click open. Remember to select multiple things, you would hold your shift. I need to now get this picture to my blank document. So to select all of this, I am going to do Command A. You could also do select all up here, or if you're one of our Windows keyboard on the Mac computers, you would do Windows A. And now I need to copy, so I'm doing Command C or Windows C, and then popping over here and paste, Command V or Windows V. Once it's over here, I need to make it bigger because obviously it doesn't fit the whole thing. So I am actually going to move mine up and go big because I'm going to zoom so that I have more focus on the popsicle stick, because we don't really care about the background so much. Oop, that might be a little bit too big. Nope, that's just right. So we need to leave enough space that we can get our fish head in there, but we still see the hand. Otherwise it's going to be a weird floating popsicle stick. So I might have gone a tiny bit too big. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller so I have a little bit more space for my fish head. And once that's done, you can either hit enter or return. And so next I need to get my fish onto here. So we're just going to pop over to this one. And there are a bunch of different ways that you can do this part. We are going to use our selection tools and our layer masks and all that jazz. I am done with this one, so I can close that. All right, so there are a couple different selection tools over here. We're just gonna go with our object selection tool, and we're just gonna select subject. If you click on it, so like you can see, it'll make it red for something. But the problem is because he's got the background is the same as his eye, he's not really getting selected. So we're actually gonna do select subject with this one, and it's gonna use the picture and kind of select that subject for us. And then we're going to go up here to select and mask. Yours might not look red like this. It depends on if you've done this part or not before. There's a lot of different versions. I typically stick with either overlay or on layers. Essentially what it's doing is it's telling you what you're selecting. And so then we want to make our selection a little softer on the edge so that it's not a super hard cut edge on the edge of our fish, because it's going to look a little weird. So we are going to feather a bit, and you can mess with these numbers as you see fit when you need to. And then we are also going to shift edge, because what feathering does is, you can see it kind of makes the edge a little softer. But we don't want any of that background, so we're actually going to shift it in, because you can shift out and you can shift in, so you can kind of see I'm getting more of the background or less of the background. And I'm going to shift in by, let's just go with -40. And then we are going to output this as a selection. So I'm going to click OK. And then once again, I have to copy. So Command C or Windows C, pop over here and paste. And now my fish is too big for my popsicle. So I need to transform it. So what I could do is go up to Edit Transform. But instead, I'm actually going to click this little button down here, and that's going to free transform it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate my fish. Okay, now my fish is actually, it's pretty close in size, but it's not quite right. So what I'm going to do is I am going to mess with my opacity here, because my guess is for some of you it's really not right. Depends on how you cropped your popsicle picture. And I am going to slowly adjust so that it's just right. And so I could zoom in if I wanted to. So you can kind of see he's not quite right there, and our fish is going to be weirdly cut off. So I'm just going to kind of, my goal is to get him as close to exact as possible. And then once that's done, you are going to click enter or return. So my fish is now there, and I need to get rid of all this junk so that it actually looks like he's part of the popsicle. In order to do that, I actually am going to hide my fish for a moment, and I'm going to pop back to layer 1, because we want to select just this popsicle right here. So I'm going to go back to my option selection, and I'm going to go boop, and then select and mask. And I am once again going to feather a little bit. Not too much. Make sure that you get that negative in there. And instead of outputting it as a selection, I am going to output it as a layer mask. So don't freak out. I know your background's gone. That's just fine. And actually, I'm noticing I am including a little bit of that background that I don't want. So I am going to go back in. Oop, nope, cancel. I just double clicked on the layer mask, and I am going to shift my edge a little bit more, like that. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're going to click on this layer mask right here. You can see it's black and white, and we are actually gonna click and drag it up to layer 2. So if I make layer 2 visible now, all that I can see is the stuff that's inside that mask. However, I have parts of my fish up here that I want to be able to see. So what I'm gonna do is I am actually going to add and subtract from the mask. So make sure you're clicked on the mask, and first I'm going to add. So up here you can see my brush is nice and big, and I probably want a fairly hard edge just to get up into this area, and my opacity is really low, so I need to make it all the way up. So now I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna get some of my fish back. Oh, and see, I accidentally went a little too far over there, so I'll have to fix that in a second here. Bringing back the fish. So then I need to subtract from the mask here to get rid of that little bit over there because we don't want them overhanging. And then what's actually happening is you'll notice like how it's switching over here between the two black and white. Because over here, what's white is what's going to show up and what's black isn't. So what I want to do is I now want to kind of soften this edge here so that it's a nice smooth transition between fish to popsicle. So I'm going to make my opacity go all the way up so that I can see more of the fish. And I am going to subtract from my mask. And here's where you start messing with that opacity up here. I'm going to go down to a lower number. And then I'm actually going to go down to 0 hardness. We want a nice soft brush for this. And I think I'm actually going to make my brush a little bit bigger. And so with this stuff that's farther down, I might actually want a higher number in my opacity to make it a little bit faster and get rid of it a little bit more, because especially those areas that where we're seeing the black like through the fin, we don't want that. We're just going to make it go bye-bye. So I'm just slowly but surely working my way towards making that a little bit, maybe softening up my edges here a little bit. And then I can, oh, I'm going to undo that. I think I did it a little too much there. I'm going to bump down to a lower opacity so it's a smoother transition. I'm going to kind of just bring it up into there. Now let's say I did it way too much. Oh no, oh no. I can go and add back into the mask like we did before and just kind of bring it back so it's a little bit smoother transition. And you're just going to kind of keep working until you think you've got a nice smooth transition between them all. Okay, so I'm just going to work my way up. Now, it looks fairly decent. I've got a little bit of an issue up there that I need to deal with, I think. Smooth that out just a little. Okay, I need to zoom in more, I think. All right. Just boop, 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 because I remember I went in and I deleted a little bit too much, a little too hard of an edge there. And now you can see I'm actually seeing a little bit of that popsicle in there, so I need to add back into my mask. Just enough so so my fish isn't looking too odd. Because we don't want them to be see-through so that we can see the background. So I'm just going into my corners a little bit there and whatnot. All right, now my popsicle and my fish are together, which is awesome. But the colors aren't quite right. So that's the next thing that we're gonna do. I'm actually gonna hide my fish for a second here, and I'm gonna click back on this first layer. So I'm gonna object select that popsicle. We're gonna go to select and mask because we don't want the stick to change color. So up here, we are going to click the minus tool, and we are gonna minus, get rid of that stick there. So as you can see, like if I switch this over to black and white, I have a little bit of stick left in there. I'm gonna get rid of that. And then I'm just gonna feather my edges a little bit again. I don't need to do too much. I'm just trying to not get as much of the background and make it a nice soft, like smooth transition. And then I am gonna make it a selection. I'm gonna click OK. And then what I'm gonna do is over here, most of you probably have your properties pulled up. I'm gonna click over to adjustments. If you can't see adjustments, just go up to window and click adjustments. And there's a lot of different things that you can adjust. We are going to adjust the color balance. And you'll notice it made it into a little layer mask for us, so I can mess with that. I am gonna make mine, I need to make my fish visible now. Oh, and I'm realizing that I'm seeing part of my fish, so I'll have to go back and adjust my layer mask back there in a second. So I am going to mess with my color balance, make it a little bit more orangey in areas so that it gets closer to my fish colors. So if I go too much yellow, it's not gonna quite be right. I think I'm gonna make that go back to 0. And I think what I'm actually gonna mess with is my shadows, there we go. Push that a little bit closer to orange. But my fish is being a little bit too reddish. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on my fish layer. I'm gonna go back to adjustments because I want to, nope, I clicked on the wrong one. Boop. Back to my adjustments, and I'm gonna click on my color balance. But if I do it this way, you'll see it's all white there. It's gonna mess with all of it. So what I need to do is make it into a clipping mask. So I'm gonna right click and say create clipping mask. And that's gonna show a little arrow that's pointed down. And now when I mess with it, it's only gonna mess with it with just the fish, okay? So I'm gonna mess with it so that my oranges on this fish kind of match a little bit better. And then I can go back to this one and select and mess with my layer mask some more because I have to get rid of that fin there. And you're just gonna keep messing with it until you have a nice looking fish here, fish popsicle. And then remember, we're going to save if we want to keep editing. And when we are ready to turn it in, we're going to export as and then export it as a JPEG. So once it's all done, you will have a lovely looking little fish popsicle that I probably would not want to eat, but it looks lovely. So yeah, that's how you make a fish popsicle in Photoshop.